Well, it's 6:15. Would you like to give us a reading from the book?
Sure. I selected a chapter that I think will feel very relatable to a lot of people because Mallory has been walking all afternoon in the hot sun with nothing to eat or drink, and she's extremely warm and getting a little bit tired. She's getting to that point in the evening where she's not quite sure what's going on, and her thoughts are just kind of one after the other. Oh. I don't know how long I walked. The side streets all resembled each other, all Victorian semi-detached, and the odd ugly infill and the little parquet and the convenience store, as though each block had a minimum requirement to meet. The heat hadn't diminished. Humidity hung in the air like heavy velour curtains from the 70s, the kind that gather dust unless they're cleaned regularly, which they never are. Back guest room curtains, the ones in hideous shades of mustard and burgundy. It was very warm, and I was very tired. The humidity kept my hair from drying even as the heat of the day remained, until my head felt like it was wrapped in a warm, wet towel. All I wanted was to be at home with my feet up, watching my delicious boyfriend making a delicious meal with extra flair and pan flipping. Dylan was probably worried sick. I still hadn't encountered a working payphone. There never seemed to be one around when you needed one. My cell phone hung heavy in my pocket like a hand-sized rock for all the good it did me. But I did have that one bar of battery left. If I needed it, I could call. But then what if I needed that bar to call a cab or an ambulance? It was better to wait and find a payphone. Better to wait and see if the power came back on. It had already been a few hours. How many hours? I wasn't sure. The taxi driver had my watch where he was now, the bastard. It was very hot. I hadn't eaten since before the presentation. There had been sandwiches out on the long tables, but Aggie and I didn't touch them. There was an unspoken rule that they were for clients. I'm fairly certain I saw John sneak one, but then he would. He was probably at his cottage already, sitting on a dock somewhere watching, I don't know, loons fishing or something, beavers. I had no idea where his cottage was, whether it was on a lake or on a river or in the middle of the woods somewhere. Did people have cottages not near water? But then how would you go swimming? Wasn't swimming the point of having a cottage? Swimming, barbecuing, and then a real bed, proper bathroom, so it's not camping. Somewhere with a couch and board games that have missing pieces and a macrame owl. Cottages always have a macrame owl hanging on the wall. It's the law. That's how you know a cottage is ripe and ready for harvest. It has grown a macrame owl. The patterns of leaves overhead made a soothing blend of light and dark, rippling along the cloudless sky, like leaves on a pond. No, that's not right. If they were leaves on a pond and I was looking up at them, wouldn't that mean that I was at the bottom of the pond? Oh, it would be so dark and cool. John was probably right now at the barbecue, beer in one hand, funny apron donned. Fucking John and his fucking cottage. My stomach growled. I emerged from the shady side streets onto a bigger road, delighting in a bit of a breeze. Not much, but the movement lifted some of the heat out of my still sopping hair and carried it away until I grew lighter and dizzier. Where was I? More to the point, where was everyone else? There were no cars on the road. I didn't recognize any of the stores, and I couldn't find a street sign. It was eerie without any people walking about. Everyone else, there had been people out, about, living their ordinary lives, or walking home like I was. And now there was no one, not even at windows or at doors. The storefronts were cutouts of black. Perhaps it was the cooler air, or the sudden sight of the sunset, but goosebumps rose on my neck and arms. I'm not a praying person. My feeling is that if I leave well enough alone, I will be left well enough alone. Not a scientific mode of thinking, I admit, but the idea of don't start none, won't be none, lay at the core of whatever scraps form my philosophy. Of course, I didn't always follow that, but then everyone is a hypocrite from time to time. My point, dizzying, rambling aside, is that even an apathetic non-believer like myself can recognize when certain boundaries have been crossed, and lacking any other explanation. After all, only a few blocks behind me, streets rang noisily full of kids playing, and now the city was deserted. Lifeless asphalt, empty trees. There weren't even any pigeons. Why weren't there any pigeons? And then my nose caught a scent. Hot dogs! Someone had a food cart. One of the first things I'd eaten during my inaugural childhood visit to Toronto was street meat, as it was affectionately termed to me. The hot dogs are of proper and generous size, not tiny ones like you buy at a supermarket. And instead of bland, insipid condiments, Toronto street meat could be dressed like a queen. Honey mustard, spicy ketchup, corn relish, olives, pickles, bacon bits. All proper vendors had a buffet of condiment tubs attached to their cart, condiment tubs attached to their cart, and toasted buns. It was the best thing to eat after getting out of a bar and a club in the wee hours. It's very often the only thing to eat, but that doesn't distract from its glories. The scent was thin, a whisper of a vapor against a large and uncaring city, but it could have been trace elements 3 atoms wide, and I would have followed it. I became a bloodhound. My blisters stopped throbbing, my head stopped spinning. Everything in my being, each coiled strand of DNA within each cell, now had a singular intention: to find food. I would track that hot dog vendor to the ends of the earth and load that street meat up with every single available option until it was more condiment than bun. And then I would... Fuck, I don't have any money. Shit. And the fucking taxi driving backstabber had my watch. Necklace? Cheap and not sentimental. It would do for bargaining. Maybe that would work. Assuming the vendor would be in front of Bathurst Station, that's certainly where I would set up shop, given the option, I quickened my pace south, but as the subway station appeared in front of me, it sat deserted as the street. More so, for there were streetcars half in the rail loop, frozen, dark, empty, left where they had stopped working when the overhead power line shut off. The doors were unlocked, so I walked in, but no one was in the station, not even to turn people away. So early? It was still late afternoon. Or evening? The sun sat where I had left it, hidden behind buildings, but still lighting the bottom half of the sky. Even the colors hadn't changed, like a painted backdrop to a movie set. It may not have been transit service, but there was something nearly as good. Payphones. A whole bank of payphones. I grabbed the first one eagerly. I could reverse the charges or something, call collect. Except that there was no dial tone. Hello? I jiggled the little tongue that the receiver rested on. Hello? Can anyone hear me? Hello? Replied a small whisper back out of the machine. Hello? Are you with the phone company? I asked, holding the handset with 2 hands, as though afraid it would fly away. Phone company? No. Who is this? My name's Mallory. I need to call my boyfriend, but I don't have any money. Oh, the phone won't work without money, said the tiny voice in a soft sigh, almost like a fluttering of wings. Soft, feathery wings. Why was I thinking of wings? Can't I collect call or something? Oh, I don't think so. Collect calls? You'd have to catch them first. Oh. Tiny cooing laughter and then the same whispery sigh. Oh, can I help you with anything else? My throat caught. I'm really hungry, I whispered. I'm thirsty, tired. Oh, I can't help with that either, the voice replied. And then, what's your boyfriend's name? Dylan. He lives in Islington Village. He was making me a special dinner, but it's probably too late now. Oh, dinner, cooed the voice. That sounds lovely. What's he going to make? A surprise? Oh, how wonderful. Surprise dinner. And then would he dance for you? What? I pulled the handset away to regard it, as if I could see something besides ordinary black plastic. I gave it a shake and placed it back to my ear. You should only pay attention if he dances for you, continued the voice. Otherwise, how will you know if he's healthy? I paused in the same dry rustling. I have to go. She says she's ready to see you now. Then came silence, a deeper absence of dial tone than just a broken phone, and I knew the voice was gone. As if my thoughts summoned it, the smell of hot dogs drifted towards me with the breeze, stronger now, and lingering, like a finger lovingly traced along my face. I left the odd payphones behind and wandered out into the street. Kitty corner to the station lay a streetcar, sad and abandoned, and beyond that stood the intersection of Bloor West and Bathurst, the southwest corner being the bulk of Honest Ed's department store, dominated by its oversized marquee sign in red and yellow, which should have been 3 stories of light bulbs and sale signs with incredibly bad puns. Is Honest Ed a squirrel? Because these prices are nuts. The store instead stood dark and empty, the mannequins and displays of housewares in deep shadow, and the signs barely legible. The doors of the streetcar were open where the others had been closed. I patted its red flank like a trusty horse and peered around into the intersection. And then, Honest Ed's lit up. First came an audible grinding of switches being thrown, and then the banks of yellow incandescent bulbs began to glow, quickly brightening into dazzling glare before moving through the routine of flashing and flickering like the world's most garish movie marquee. Excitement surged through me. The power was back on. The power. But all the other buildings remained dark, and there was still no one around. I looked either way along Bloor, but nothing indicated anyone but Honest Ed's had electricity. I wandered into the middle of the intersection. No cars in either direction, still no sign of life. And the store windows of Honest Ed's remained dark, as if it was closed, reflections and glare dancing across the panes. The sun remained fixed in the sky. I could see a corner of it between two buildings. It seemed less distinct, less real, than the immense sign before me. What else could I do? I followed my nose.